Before Jaws came out in 1975, people loved the ocean. After the scene, however, millions of people were afraid to go back into the water. The truth is, every generation has horror movies that leave everlasting scars. Scenes so disturbing that they stick with you for decades. So today, we're going to be looking at some horror movies that traumatize entire generations. And trust me, the final movie on this list created one of the most disturbing scenes ever put on film. Let's get into it. Before we get into it, if you're new to this channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. I love covering all things horror, not just reviews, but other topics as well. And don't forget to hit the like button. When Jaws was released in 1975, it didn't just become a blockbuster. It created real-world fear because people were suddenly afraid of something that had always been there: the ocean. The opening attack, a girl swimming alone in the dark water, until something unseen suddenly grabs her and violently pulls her under the surface. The brilliance of this scene is that you barely see the shark. Your imagination does all the work. And suddenly the ocean that felt vast and unknowable felt very dangerous. Even to this day, this movie makes people hesitate before swimming too far offshore. Yours truly still does not go into the ocean. Poltergeist looked like a normal suburban ghost story. A family in a nice house, kids, a television, but the movie suddenly turned into something far darker. One of the most shocking moments happens when a man looks into the bathroom mirror. He starts pulling at his face, and suddenly his skin begins peeling off, layer by layer, until he's tearing his own face apart. The movie mostly builds tension through supernatural scares, but this moment right here drops pure body horror into the film. For a lot of kids who watched Poltergeist thinking that this was just a ghost story, this one was very disturbing. When Wes Craven introduced Freddy Krueger, he created a villain unlike anything audiences had ever seen before. Because Freddy didn't attack in the real world, he attacked you in your dreams. Tina's death scene. She's dragged across the walls and the ceiling as invisible claws slash through her, her body twisting violently while blood splatters across the room. Freddy broke one of the most terrifying rules, that you can't escape sleep because everyone has to sleep eventually, which meant Freddy could come for anyone. And for a lot of kids growing up in the 80s, like me, bedtime suddenly felt a lot more uncomfortable and scary. Before Child's Play, dolls were just toys. But after this movie, a lot of kids looked at their toys very differently. Andy's mom finally realizes something is wrong. She checks the doll and then the batteries fall out, which means that this doll has been moving on its own. Then suddenly, Chucky turns his head and screams.
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut! Did you fuck with me?
The horror came from something familiar turning dangerous. A toy designed to comfort children became a killer, meaning that for an entire generation, dolls stopped feeling harmless. Stephen King has written many disturbing stories, but in Pet Sematary, there's one moment that scarred a lot of viewers permanently. Even to this day, this scene still freaks me out. Rachel remembers her sister, Zelda, sick, lying in bed, her spine twisted and deformed.
I had to feed her sometimes. I hated it.
This scene feels disturbingly real because there's no monster makeup or supernatural effects, just illness, fear, and a deep, unsettling performance. And for many viewers, Zelda became one of the most disturbing images in horror history. I still don't like her.
Never get out of bed again! Never get out of bed again!
By the early 2000s, horror had evolved, but The Ring managed to create something that audiences had never seen before. A curse delivered through technology. You watch the tape, and 7 days later, you die. The moment that shocked everyone was Samara crawling out of the television, her body moving unnaturally, hair covering her face, slowly stepping into the room. The scene breaks the barrier between screen and reality because horror literally climbs out of the television. And for audiences in the early 2000s, surrounded by new technology, that idea felt uncomfortably possible. If you like what I'm doing, do me a favor, hit that like button. And if you want all things horror related and content, including reviews, hit that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything, helps me out quite a bit. Now on to the final one. When The Exorcist premiered in 1973, audiences were not ready. People fainted in the theater. Some theaters even had ambulances outside because the movie didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt real.
I fainted like 10 minutes after the first beginning of the movie. And I walked out and they gave me some water.
Yeah. Do you remember what caused you to faint?
Well, they started that spinal tap or whatever so. And I started closing my eyes and I could hear the gagging and I was getting sicker and I walked up the aisle with my friend and I was just ready to pass out.
The moment that is burned into everyone's memory is Reagan sitting on the bed, her head slowly turning until it spins completely around. Then that voice. It's not a child voice. It's something else.
Do you know what she did? Your canting daughter.
And I want to go in the lobby and not watch it and I have to cover my ears.
What was it that made that happen?
Just when she started talking like devil coming out of her.
Before this movie, horror had been mostly monsters and gothic stories. But The Exorcist suggested something far more disturbing. That evil could enter your home, your family, even your child.
Do you remember what it was, what scene it was that affected you so much?
Convulsions, when she took convulsions. Because I have a little girl, and it was like watching my little girl.
And for audiences in the 1970s, that idea was far too terrifying. Horror movies, they come and go, but few scenes leave scars that last an entire generation. These films changed how people thought about sleep, their toys, television, and even the ocean. And decades later, we still remember where we were when we first saw these movies. Now, as usual, I know I missed one. What horror scene traumatized you the most growing up? Drop it in the comments below because I know I've missed a few. So until next time, make sure you hit that like and subscribe and check out my other videos. But more importantly, don't get too scared. Take care, guys.